Hope you're having a good day today. It's July 10th. Our reading today comes from the Psalms. Once again, it's Psalm 107 as well as 111 through 114. We're going to be looking in Psalm 107. There's a phrase that appears repeatedly throughout this passage, and the phrase is found there in verse 8. Oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. So that verse shows up, verse 8, that phrase, oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord. Verse 15, oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord for his goodness. Verse 21, oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord for his goodness. And then verse 31, oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord for his goodness. Now, each one of those passages concludes a distinct section, and each one is speaking about something specifically, but there's one, and I'll feel free to share your thoughts about what the last one that we're going to look at is speaking about. But it's interesting. So, the first one, as I said, verse 8. Now look at what it's at the conclusion of. Verse 1, oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His mercy endures forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, whom he has redeemed from the hand of the enemy. Gathered out of the lands from the east, from the west, from the north, from the south, they wandered in the wilderness in a desolate way. They found no city to dwell in. Hungry and thirsty, their souls fainted in them. They cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them out of their distress. He led them forth by the right way, that they might go to a city for a dwelling place. So you have this picture of wandering in the wilderness. But this, as we're going through chronologically, to think about, because we know where they were before the wilderness. If this is speaking about the wilderness way after Egypt, that may be one option. The part that doesn't jive with me about that is verse 3. He gathers them out of lands from the east, west, north, and south. That this may be speaking about bondage, or pardon me, about captivity, and that picture. It may be speaking very generally. I have trouble believing that. It's because of these next verses we're going to see that I think are speaking about something very specific. But anyway, feel free to give your thoughts. But you have that section. Then we have the next section that concludes there in verse 15. Now, verse 10, those who sat in darkness and the shadow of death, they rebelled against the words of the Lord, despised the counsel Most High. He brought down their heart with labor. They fell down, there was none to help. They cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he saved them from their distress, brought them out of darkness and the shadow of death, broke their chains. And so, once again, we see that picture. And here, actually, just read on. Especially because of verse 21 is the next one. And it's verse 18 that I think, if verse 18, their soul abhorred all manner of food, and they drew near to the gates of death. I would think that would have to be talking about when they despised the manna. But if they despised the manna in the wilderness years after Egypt. Now, it doesn't specifically say the manna, I don't think. Other passages speak about it more clearly. But I would think that would have to be speaking about the manna. But regardless, what we see is them stumbling and then crying out to the Lord in their trouble and then being saved from their distress. So these three that we've looked at so far, either they're speaking about things very generally, or they're speaking about very distinct moments in Israel's history. Possibly the wilderness after Egypt, possibly captivity. And as we're going through this chronological study, what I was going to say a moment ago, these verses are put fairly late chronologically, if the ones who compiled this list know what they're talking about. But anyway, so either general or specific, but the one that throws me off a little bit is the next one. And this is the one that I really wanted to get your thoughts on, because all these others, it uses the wilderness, Here, their soul abhorred all manner of food, bondage, captivity. You have all these things being spoken about, these figures. But now you have this next one. And the verse is 31. But then you look at what happens before that. Let them sacrifice the sacrifices of thanksgiving and declare his works with rejoicing. Those who go down to the sea in ships, who do business on great waters. They see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep, for he commands and raises the stormy wind, which lifts up the waves of the sea. They mount up to the heavens, they go down to the depths. Their soul melts because of trouble. They reel to and fro and stagger like a drunken man and are at their wits' end. Then they cry out to the Lord in their trouble, and he brings them out of their distresses. He calms the storm so that its waves are still. Then they are glad because they are quiet, so he guides them to their desired haven. Oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. Those other passages, I think, are obvious. I think they're speaking about specific moments. So the question then becomes, well, what specific moment is this talking about? Here, in talking about those who go down to the sea in ships, when they see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. Who's it talking about? And you think about Israel's history, and I just wonder if it's not talking about Jonah. And here specifically, if it's talking about Jonah, you might remember when Jonah finally is thrown overboard, those men do offer sacrifices. And they did see the wonderful works of God. And they were thankful when the storm was quieted. So I wonder if it's not talking about Jonah. Regardless, the point is obvious. Oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord for his goodness and to his wonderful works to the children of men. That's the point. Appreciate you. Hope this study's been helpful. Hope you have a good day. Please join us for our next look into God's Word.